I, 32 female, married Paul, 39, 14 months ago. I have 2 stepsons that I adore so much. They're still young. My family are fine with Paul, but aren't involved with the kids much, although they treat them well, but they don't show affection or love. I've stopped attending family gatherings because I've been told to not bring the boys with me, which is unacceptable to me and very disrespectful. My family tried to look for excuses to justify their behavior of trying to leave my boys out of family functions, but last month, they invited us all to dinner, and it went fine. Paul was shocked but happy that my family finally worked out the issue and slowly started including the boys. Last week was my sister's wedding. She sent me an invitation before, then told me they're having a small celebration with no kids, a child-free type of celebration. Once my brother confirmed he was coming with his wife and leaving the kids home, I thought that I could go, since the no kids rule was for the entire family. That is, until my cousin called me the night before the wedding. She's a relative. She doesn't know exactly what's going on with my family, and she's been good to Paul and the boys. She started talking about the wedding and said that she'd be bringing her kids. I was confused. I asked about the no kids rule, and she said that everyone was allowed to bring kids. I checked with my brother's wife, and she said she was allowed to bring kids and had no idea why I asked. I confronted my sister. She said she lied, so I won't bring the boys, and that it was Mom's idea and couldn't think of a better idea because they didn't want my boys there. I yelled at them both and told them I'm not coming if my boys aren't. The day of the wedding, we packed our bags and went on a picnic since the weather was nicer and warmer. The boys had a great time and Paul as well. In the evening, I got a ton of calls and nasty texts from my mom and dad and brother for not coming to support my sister, and that I made a joke out of them and guests were looking for me, and I let them and my sister down as her older sister. My sister was upset that I missed her wedding and called me awful for being inconsiderate of her feelings. To add, the boys are well behaved. Our oldest is incredibly responsible and helpful. Our youngest is already bonded with my cousin's son who's his age. I've talked to Paul, and he said it's up to me whether I still want to be in contact with my family, but he won't be letting the boys be treated like this anymore. I understand how he felt. I feel terrible too. Yes, my family isn't supportive of me having stepkids and said that I was quick to make a decision because of Paul, but it's not true. Like I said, I couldn't imagine what Paul would have felt seeing others bringing their kids except for us. You are not wrong at all. The fact that she lied to you about it tells you all you need to know. She didn't have the guts to stand up for her awful treatment of your family, so instead she lied to try and avoid having to defend her terrible treatment of you. You not going to the wedding after how they treated you is not unfair at all, and the fact that they're offended just reeks of narcissism. So sorry, OP. The one question I have is how much this was a result of the mother's bullying the sister versus a genuine desire of the sisters. Depending on who was paying for the wedding, the sister may not have had the leverage to say, "My wedding, my guest list." And even without that, if the mother would have said, "If you invite them, your father and I will not come," sister may have felt boxed in and forced to choose. I just think it's important for OP to differentiate between the above case, where sister is a pawn in mother's longer-term war, and the case where sister regards these kids as nobodies. You are not the idiot. Your children don't have to come out of you to be your children. It doesn't matter if they are adopted, step, or by blood. Your family decided to exclude them and then lie to you about excluding them. Enabling them would massively hurt your children in the long term, so you absolutely did the right thing. You will have to endure your family harassing you though, because they will probably never accept the consequences of their actions and blame you for sticking to your children. My brother-in-law got engaged. Mother-in-law is more thrilled than the couple and is taking them with her to visit relatives and showing, posting pictures, collecting gifts, food. I remember when my husband announced our engagement, she excused herself to the bathroom, saying she'd be back in 5 minutes. Well, I didn't see her until 2 months later. We started getting along. She's generous, sends gifts every holiday, brings food when visiting, but never quits her snarky comments, especially in public. Last week, my dear husband said my mother-in-law called and said she was coming to visit. My face looks like I ran out of oxygen. He also said that my brother-in-law and his fiancée were coming. I prepared dinner and was surprised to see my brother-in-law's fiancée brought meals with her. Mother-in-law said she had asked her to prepare a few meals to share with the family. Anyways, as soon as I put dinner on the table, mother-in-law started placing future sister-in-law's meals on the left side of the table, while mine were on the right side. Then she started comparing my meals with my sister-in-law's meals, like we're in a competition. I was shocked when mother-in-law started comparing my appetizers, main dish, salad, to what my sister-in-law brought. I couldn't eat because this was so humiliating. She kept praising sister-in-law's cooking while criticizing mine. I finally snapped when she compared my dessert to my sister-in-law's cake. I asked her what she was doing because my sister-in-law looked confused too. Mother-in-law said blatantly that she was comparing my sister-in-law's food and said sister-in-law's cooking was better. My husband told her to knock it off, but I lost it. I called her out and told her she was being mean, disrespectful to me after spending time and effort to cook. I put my foot down and told her I won't be doing anything from now on for her to criticize. I'm not a doormat for her. I'm a woman with a degree, a job, a personality, an opinion, and more importantly, integrity. Sister-in-law sided with me when mother-in-law started arguing and told her she didn't appreciate what she did and that it was unacceptable. Sister-in-law took her bag and left. Husband argued with mother-in-law and then she left. She sent a text and thanked me for putting on a show and embarrassing her and making her and family look bad in front of my brother-in-law's fiancé, who's supposed to see the best of our behavior. That now sister-in-law has a bad idea of what the family is and that I shouldn't have acted like that. My husband agreed with me being mad, but disagreed with my reaction. You are not the idiot here. She showed her true colors. You didn't let her walk all over you and treat you like garbage. I think you handled it perfectly. Good on future sister-in-law for agreeing with you too. You are not the idiot, but I am more than a little disappointed in the response of both of her sons. When you get married, and really before, a son should side with his wife, not his mother. His wife should be his number one, and not some mama's boy who always has to make his mama happy. It shouldn't have gotten all the way to dessert before they stepped in, and it shouldn't have taken you blowing up to snap some sense into them. Your mother-in-law came to your house to play a mean girl game with you and your sister-in-law. In your own house. She was cruel. Who does that? And your husband thinks you handled it poorly? Girl, I don't know you, but I know that you deserve better. Block her number. Go to a lawyer. Get legal separation papers drafted. Your husband has to know that you're serious. You never have to be in the same room as that woman again. She never gets to be in your home again. She doesn't like you. She cannot like you from many miles away. Her behavior is literally psychotic. If your guy does not get his stuff together and make it clear to his mother that psychologically tormenting his wife is no longer part of her entertainment menu, leave him. You are not the idiot. My 41 female son, 22, left for basic training last Friday. I cried for days and I miss him very much. He called once to let me know that he was safe, but I most likely will not get to talk to him for the next 12 weeks. I went to the grocery store on Sunday, and when I came home, I heard my daughter, nearly adult, screaming at my middle son, 20. When I went to see what was going on, I saw my middle son carrying a laundry basket full of my oldest son's clothes and his PlayStation 4. I also saw my husband, 42, all of my kids' bio father, putting the rest of his things in garbage bags. My daughter was screaming at both of them to put everything back, that it was Trev's things and not garbage. I asked both my husband and middle son what was going on. My son said that his father told him to take what he wants. At that point, I was livid with both of them and said that this was still Trev's home, and that until he told me otherwise, those were still his things and they will be kept in his room until he asked for them. My husband said that it didn't matter. Trev was a man now, and his home would be wherever the military sent him. I told my husband that he was being cruel to Trev and that this would always be his home. My daughter was hysterical at this point, and I told them both that they were being despicable for treating his room and things like a shopping mall. The next day, I went out and bought a padlock for his room, and I have one key in the glove box of my car. The other will be taken to my office and locked in my filing cabinet. When my husband saw the padlock, he flipped and told me that I was being overdramatic and that this was his house and he would just take a crowbar and pry it off. I told my husband and Jeff that if I saw either of them in that room again or found that someone tampered with that lock, they would both be out of the house. My husband is now calling me a grieving war widow, and my middle son is saying that he is entitled to the bigger room now that Trev is gone. Meanwhile, all of this drama is making Trev leaving harder on my poor daughter, who is truly having a hard time with her big brother being gone. My husband is demanding I take the lock off the door and let him clean out the room. I refused to do this and told him that the only way the room is getting cleaned out would be if Trev no longer wants to live here. Am I the idiot for putting a padlock on the door? Not the idiot. I feel like a room switch could be negotiated with your sons in 12 weeks, but there's no reason at all for them to be stealing and throwing away Trev's things. They're still his things. Even if he ends up living elsewhere, one assumes he, wants his stuff. The padlock seems a bit extreme, but if husband and other son can't be trusted to stay out of the room and hands off son's stuff, it's understandable. You are not the idiot. Will your other son have all of his things put into trash bin bags too? Since he's a man as well. If your middle son wants a bigger room, he is welcome to find one in his own apartment with his new roommate, your husband. Best of luck to your son, and thank him for his service. Stay strong, Mama. Wow, it is super weird to me that your other son and your husband are acting like Trev is dead, not just away for 12 weeks. Did they hate Trev or something? It sure seems like they do, considering they're literally stealing his stuff, his space, everything, apparently without ever having discussed it with him beforehand. And their disrespect for your empty nest syndrome is also weird. It feels like they're being super passive-aggressive towards him, and you, and your daughter by extension. And with that "this is his house" crack, I'm wondering if there's some kind of beef between your husband and Trev that your husband has waited till now to vent. Or maybe he's just feeling threatened by the fact that Trev is a man now. I have no suggestions on how to get past this, because I can't see how you get past such disrespectful, cruel behavior. I'm sorry your husband and son are idiots. You are not wrong here. I'm 24, male, own my house. I bought it on my own after saving every single cent I had made for past 10 years, aside from what I bought for food, obviously. My stepdad married my mom when I was a little kid and always treated me like a burden to the household, even though I worked and provided more than he did. Not with money, but I helped my mom with all the house chores, including cooking, because her husband never lifted a finger, claiming it was the woman's job. Because of this, he would call me feminine all the time or introduce me as, "This is my wife's daughter," son, and was overall just an annoying loser. So like I said, I bought a house as soon as I possibly could, 8 months ago. It's a fixer-upper, and I got it under a foreclosure contract, so I only paid $17,000, but it's a 2-bedroom and actually really nice, so no complaints. Anyways, my mom fell and broke her hip 3 months ago, which made her lose her job. Where my stepdad is still practically a mooch, he refuses to work more than 12 hours a week, claiming it isn't worth it. They lost the house. My mom was the main breadwinner, $70,000 a year. So, Mom calls me and asks me if she and her husband could move in with me temporarily. I told her I would think about it and told her to come check the place out first, because where it does need work, the floors are old and the wood is coming up in spots, and she's still recovering from her hip. I wanted to make sure it was suitable for her. Now at this point, I hadn't really thought of saying no, and this is with knowing my stepdad was coming too. I just didn't know if it would work with her broken hip. So they come and check it out, and my stepdad is being the most ignorant I have ever witnessed, saying things like, "You know your mom can't walk on this. Why didn't you replace it yet?" After about 45 minutes of comments like this, I turned to my mom and said, "Mom, you can absolutely move in, but your husband will have to stay elsewhere, because I will be cursed if I'm subjected to his ignorance anymore." My mom nodded, said she understood completely, and then turned to him and said, "Why must you ruin everything?" and walks out. He goes off on me about how I'm ungrateful for everything he's done for me, which is nothing, by the way. Now I'm getting texts from my mom asking if I will reconsider because they can't find anywhere else, and I have stood true and said no. She can move in, but he can't. She begs, saying it's temporary. I say no, he can find somewhere else to go because I'm not going to be stressed and belittled under my own roof. Well, I'm now getting phone calls from my stepfather's family, his brother and bio son, saying that I'm an idiot and never appreciated my stepdad's efforts and that my stepdad deserves better than me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It's always amazing that the people who treat others like crap act so surprised when it comes back to bite them on the butt. Absolutely 100% you, not the idiot, but he sure is. Stand your ground, welcome your mom, but tell her loser husband to find his own place to stay. You are not wrong. Why isn't his bio son taking him in if he deserves so much better? However, consider this. He will be under your roof and beholden to your rules. And my friend, it is a sweet way of mirroring it back whilst looking like the good guy. Well, if you're working and your mom is ill, then who will do all those womanly chores in lieu of rent? Stepfather wouldn't respect any rules of OPs. He'd just continue to be an idiot. This is a dangerous tactic because it can actually be difficult to get someone out who refuses to leave. Better off sticking to a firm no. I have 4 kids, 1 daughter and 3 boys. My daughter is nearly adult and my boys are younger. My 2 older children are from a previous relationship. My oldest son is autistic and also age regresses due to some pretty severe trauma he experienced. It's all therapist approved and we have regular conversations regarding it. Age regression is essentially when someone regresses back in mental age to deal with either a traumatic event or severe stress. My son regresses to about 4, which obviously lines up with my youngest. They are the best of friends. I've never seen 2 kids get along so much in my entire life. They do everything together, and it's really sweet. My son's therapist believes this will be good for him, as our youngest can probably help my son grow up again, for lack of better terms. This has been a regular occurrence for about 6 months now. Recently took the biggest step, which was switching my 7-year-old out with his older brother. Before, my 2 youngest used to share, but my youngest was getting out of bed to go sleep in his brother's room every night. My husband and I took the steps to switch them over, and they're all much happier. My ex, however, is not happy. He's always been weird about the regression thing, but when my daughter let it slip, my son doesn't want contact with him. He blew up my phone, accusing me of all sorts, namely that I was trying to make my son a fruity, which doesn't make any sense, and I don't want to look into why he thinks that. Basically, he contacted my parents, who also think I'm doing wrong by my kids. And are you essentially calling me a bad mother? They said while they understand that my son needs help, letting him share a room with his baby brother isn't going to do anyone good. I originally thought I was in the right, but now I'm second-guessing myself. My husband insists I'm doing the right thing, but we can always reverse it if I think we need to. So I come to you because I'm at a loss. Am I wrong here? You are not wrong. It was approved by his therapist, and that's what matters. It's ridiculous your ex and your parents think they know more than a mental health professional. It can also be detrimental to the therapy if your ex and parents are undermining the therapy efforts made by you, your son, or the therapist. That's something to keep an eye on. You are not wrong. If your son didn't have the age regression, it would definitely be a different story, as that would be a little weird. But considering they seem to enjoy it, and it makes them overall happy, why not? Just because your ex isn't comfortable with age regression doesn't mean it's not happening, and clearly it's not hurting anyone that matters in the situation.